Aloha and welcome. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about access control models still. We're looking at role, rule, and attribute-based control models. So let's go ahead and open up our books. So we can see that we've got here, we're in section 2, we're in chapter 2, lesson 13, looking at role-based access controls, or RBAC, to start off with here. So role-based access controls, it's an access control model in which a subject's access rights to an object are based on the subject's role within a system. So an RBAC role is a collection of objects and permissions that capture the requirements of a job function. So a subject is assigned to a role and thereby gains access rights to objects that are required to perform the subject's job. A subject can access an object only if a subject is assigned to a role. So an example, this is going to be a sales role, captures the requirements for a salesperson, which may include rights to a database and a computer, could do other things, but a user who is a salesperson is assigned the sales role, and that's how they get all the access to the database and the computer. So you assign somebody to a role, and that role is, that defines what they have access to. So RBAC is what we call a non-discretionary access control model. So a non-discretionary access control model is an access control model in which access to an object is controlled by a central authority or administrator. So this is different from what we talked about in a previous lesson with the discretionary access when we were talking about setting up ACLs and such. So this is going to be different. This is non-discretionary access control model. And over here, you can go through and run the examples of this, but it just shows you that you've got a role as a collection of objects and permissions that capture the requirements of a job function. So the things that you need in order to do your job. So a salesperson, they need permission to certain objects like the database. And over here, you've got the engineering, which also needs database access and files. So you've got all these roles set up, and then the subjects, the users, are assigned to a role, and that's how they gain access to the objects, because the role has specifies which objects they should have access to. So go ahead and mix and match here. Also go through here and work through this. This will help really make you understand the ins and outs of RBAC. So the next one is ABAC. So ABAC is attribute-based access control. An attribute-based access control model is an access control model in which access to an object is based on attributes and access control policies that define the allowable operations for a given attribute combination. So the ABAC is a non-discretionary access control model, just like RBAC. It's also known as a policy-based access control, this one. So essentially what you're doing is you have attributes that must align with the policy that's out there. And if they align, then you have access to the actual objects. So ABAC has three types of attributes. The first one is the object, the second is subject, the third is environmental attribute, also known as the context of an access request. So with an object attribute, that's going to be characteristics about the object, like the name, the creation date, time, sensitivity, owner. Then you've got the subject attribute, which is you've got you've got different things like name, role, organization, security clearance that the subject has. And then you've got the environment, and that is going to be characteristics like the time of access, current threat levels, things like that. So in ABAC, a subject is granted access rights to an object when the subject, the object, the environment combination attribute matches a defined access control policy. So an example they give is the user's access to a file is denied if the attribute combination of users, security clearance, file creation time, and current threat levels does not match a defined access control policy. I didn't really like that explanation, so I went ahead and pulled something up in ChatGPT. You can also use Gemini if you want. But here's what I like to do sometimes. If you have trouble visualizing it, or if you don't like the examples you're given, you can ask ChatGPT to come up with something for you. So I just said, give an example of an attribute-based access control, ABAC. So it said, sure, Here's an example. So we've got scenario, hospital health record systems. So a hospital uses an ABAC system to control access to patient records. The access decision is based on a combination of the user attributes, like department and clearance, resource attributes, what we were just calling object attributes, and that's going to be like record sensitivity level, the owner. Then they've got environmental attributes, which is like time of access and location. So if you got user Dr. Alice here, who's a doctor, her role is doctor, her department is cardio, her clearance level is high, and then you've got your resource there, your object, it's going to be patient record number, blah, blah, blah. Department is going to be cardiology, sensitivity is high, owner is patient in cardiology. Then you've got the environment. The environment access time is going to be 10 a.m. Access location is going to be on site in the hospital network. Then an example of a policy that you need to match that with would be allow access to a patient record if the user's role is doctor, which we have defined up here. The user's department matches the records department. So we have the records department, which is cardiology and cardiology up here. The sensitivity level is less than or equal to the user's clearance level. So we're both high on that. So that's good. And the access is during business hours from inside the hospital network. So we've matched everything there. So that's going to be the policy. So the access decision is made by what I just said, where Dr. Alice tries to access record at 10 a.m. from the hospital. Her role is doctor, her department is cardiology, which matches. She has high clearance, matching the sensitivity. Access is during business hours and on site. So result is access is granted. And then they have a counterexample here where, like, if she was trying to access a neurology one, she would be denied. So this is really helpful if you need to, because sometimes when we're dealing with theoretical things, not things you've dealt with a lot, feel free to use ChatGPT to give you real life situations where you can kind of understand what it is. And this helps tremendously with your learning process. All right, so answer some questions down here on it. Then we get to rule-based access control. So rule-based access control model is an access control model in which access to an object is based on a set of rules. So a subject can only access an object if all the conditions specified in a rule are met. When I think about this, I think of firewalls, because firewalls use a bunch of rules in an ACL to match up certain things. So here it says a rule defines circumstances in which a subject can access an object. For example, a rule may allow access to an object from a specific IP address. It could restrict access to an object to business hours only, or it can deny access to an object from a mobile device. So rule-based access control is a non-discretionary access control model. A central authority or administrator defines a set of rules for the system. So that's what you need. Whenever you hear non-discretionary access model, access control model, I want you to think of the central authority, meaning it's not going to be the user that decides your permissions for it. It's going to be a central authority or an administrator. It's not the user that owns the objects. Okay, so rule-based access control is commonly implemented in firewalls, like I mentioned earlier, through the use of access control lists, ACLs. So a firewall uses a set of rules to filter network traffic. So an example of that is a firewall rule may allow HTTPS traffic, which is secure web traffic, on TCP port 443, which is the standard common port for doing HTTPS traffic, or deny SSH traffic on TCP port 22. So SSH is secure shell, and it's usually on TCP port 22. So go ahead, answer the rule-based access control questions here. And then they have a nice little chart down at the bottom. So DAC is the only one that's discretionary. So and it calls it a discretionary access control model. So that's the only one that's discretionary. Everything else is centrally done, so it's non-discretionary access control. Then authorization criteria. So for DAC, that's the only one where object owner is going to be the one that actually does the authorization criteria. There, when you look at MAC and roles and rules and attributes, it's those things essentially that. So MAC is security policies, but role-based, rule-based, attribute-based, those are the things that are deciding the authorization. And then the permissioning basis, DAC, it's the object owner. Then the MAC, it's the classification of objects and subjects. Then you got role-based, which is going to be classification of roles. Then rules, of course, evaluation of rules. And attribute-based is going to be the evaluation of the attributes. So know this chart, know the differences between the different types of access control models, and that's pretty much it for the section. Go through, reread it a couple of times. Make sure you can see in your head examples of this. If you need to, do what I did, go to ChatGPT, ask for an example of something like a rule-based access model, something like that. Go ahead and try that out and see what you get for examples, because it's the examples that put it into real context for you that'll make it easier for you to remember this stuff later on, okay? So go ahead, do that, and that'll be it for this lesson. I'll see you in the next video. As always, if you have questions, reach out. I'm always just an email away. Have a great day. Aloha.